In the heart of Texas, where the sun blazed down on endless stretches of golden grass, there lived a cattle baron named William Hawthorne. Known for his sharp business acumen and impressive herd of cattle, William was a man of both wealth and influence. His sprawling ranch, Hawthorne Acres, was the envy of many, with its sturdy barns and lively pastures. Yet despite all his riches, something felt amiss in his life. As he stood on the porch of his grand ranch house, surveying the land that had brought him success, William couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing out on something truly important: love. With a heavy heart, he had recently announced his engagement to Eleanor Sinclair, a beautiful lady from high society. Their wedding was set for the coming spring, and while the townsfolk buzzed about the upcoming union, William felt a sense of obligation rather than excitement. Eleanor was everything one would expect from a woman of her stature: poised, charming, and well-versed in the ways of high society. However, as he daydreamed about their life together, William couldn't help but feel that their worlds were vastly different. Eleanor thrived in glittering ballrooms and lavish parties, while William found solace in the simple joys of ranch life, riding horses at dawn and tending to his cattle. One bright morning, as he prepared for his engagement party, William decided to take a ride through the ranch to clear his mind. It was there that he encountered something entirely unexpected: a spirited ranch girl named Clara, who was guiding a group of playful calves. With her sun-kissed hair tied back and a determined glint in her eye, Clara embodied everything he admired about the rugged beauty of ranch life. Their eyes met, and in that moment, William felt an unfamiliar stir in his heart. Little did he know that this chance encounter would complicate everything he thought he wanted and set him on a path he never anticipated. As the sun dipped low in the Texas sky, casting a warm golden hue over Hawthorne Acres, William returned from his ride with a mix of anticipation and dread. The grand engagement party was just hours away, and the ranch buzzed with excitement. Workers were busy putting the final touches on decorations, stringing lights between the sturdy oak trees that lined the property, and setting up long tables adorned with checkered tablecloths. William dismounted from his horse and took a moment to appreciate the beauty surrounding him. The rolling hills stretched as far as the eye could see, dotted with wildflowers that danced in the gentle breeze. Cattle grazed peacefully in the distance, their serene presence a reminder of the life he had built. Yet, in the back of his mind, he couldn't shake thoughts of Clara and what her unexpected presence might mean for his future. As he walked toward the main house, he was greeted by his staff, each wearing smiles that radiated warmth and joy. They were like family to him, having worked alongside him through thick and thin. "Mr. Hawthorne," called out Jake, his foreman, wiping sweat from his brow. "Everything's coming together splendidly for tonight. Eleanor will be so pleased." William nodded but felt a knot tighten in his stomach at the thought of Eleanor's expectations. He appreciated her charm, but part of him longed for the carefree spirit that Clara represented. Grabbing a drink from a nearby table, he took a deep breath and immersed himself in preparations. As dusk began to settle, lanterns flickered to life, illuminating the ranch like stars spilling across the ground. Laughter echoed through the air as guests began to arrive, dressed in their finest attire. The sound of music floated on the wind, creating an atmosphere filled with joy and celebration. Yet amid all this merriment, William found himself glancing toward the horizon, half expecting to see Clara's bright smile appear once more, wondering if this party would change everything he thought he knew about love and happiness. As the evening wore on and the party began to swell with laughter and music, William felt a flutter of excitement and anxiety in his chest. He had tried to focus on Eleanor and the festivities, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Clara. Just as he contemplated seeking her out, the ranch girl made her entrance, riding into the party on a spirited chestnut mare, her hair flowing like a golden banner behind her. Clara was a breath of fresh air amidst the formalities of the evening. Dressed in worn denim and a vibrant plaid shirt, she moved with a confidence that drew everyone's attention. The moment she dismounted, the crowd parted for her, and she strode toward the gathering with an easy grace that belied her strong-willed nature. Her laughter rang out like a melody, filtering through the chatter, instantly capturing William's gaze. When their eyes met, a jolt of recognition sparked between them, an electric connection that left William momentarily speechless. Clara approached him, her bright green eyes shining with curiosity. "So this is the grand affair you've been planning," she teased, a playful smile dancing on her lips. William chuckled nervously, trying to mask how much her presence affected him. "It's quite a spectacle, isn't it?" he replied, his heart racing. He admired how effortlessly she blended charm with authenticity, unlike the polished elegance of Eleanor. "Spectacle or not, it seems a bit too fancy for a ranch," Clara remarked, glancing around at the brightly lit tables and elegantly dressed guests. Her words held an edge of defiance, reminding William of the rugged beauty he cherished about ranch life. "Maybe," he replied thoughtfully. "But I suppose it's what's expected." Clara raised an eyebrow, as if challenging him to reconsider his view. "What do you really want, William Hawthorne? A life filled with parties or something more genuine?" Caught off guard by her question, William felt the tension simmering between them. It was a moment that would linger in his mind long after the party faded into memories, one that could change everything he once thought he wanted. As the engagement party progressed, the contrast between William's polished world and Clara's down-to-earth spirit became more evident. While guests sipped fine wines and discussed the latest fashions, Clara wandered among the decorations, her curiosity leading her to a nearby pen where a few young calves were resting. William watched her with amusement as she knelt beside them, her laughter ringing out when one of the calves playfully nudged her shoulder. "You've got to show them who's boss," she exclaimed, playfully imitating a ranch hand's commanding tone. Guests nearby chuckled at her antics, some baffled by her lack of concern for the party's formal atmosphere. Determined to impress Clara, William approached with a glass of champagne in hand. "Would you like to join me for a toast?" he asked, attempting to sound casual. Clara stood up, brushing dirt from her jeans and grinning widely. "A toast? You mean like raising our glasses to whatever fancy thing you've got planned?" she teased, raising an eyebrow. "How about we toast to those calves instead? They're the real stars of this show." William chuckled, realizing how different their worlds were. "All right," he said with a smile. "To the calves." He raised his glass high, and Clara followed suit with an empty mason jar she had picked up from a nearby table. The guests stared in surprise as William clinked his crystal glass against Clara's jar. Laughter erupted around them, breaking the tension of the evening. Despite being surrounded by elegance and sophistication, Clara's carefree spirit won over many attendees as they joined in on the light-hearted moment. Later in the evening, an attempt at ballroom dancing showcased their differences even further. As he led Clara onto the dance floor, she stumbled over her feet while trying to follow his lead in a waltz. "I'm more used to two-stepping than this," she exclaimed, causing William to laugh heartily. Their playful banter continued through each misstep and stumble on the dance floor, with guests cheering them on and enjoying every moment of their charming clash of worlds. In those humorous exchanges filled with joy, William began to see how refreshing Clara's perspective was, one that challenged him to embrace life beyond expectations and formalities. As the evening continued, William found himself lingering near Clara more often, drawn to her vibrant energy as if by an invisible thread. The laughter and warmth that surrounded her were infectious, making him forget the confines of his high society obligations. Each shared glance ignited a spark within him, prompting questions he had long buried beneath duty and expectation. After the dancing had ended, Clara suggested taking a walk around the ranch to look at the stars. The sky was a deep indigo, dotted with shimmering constellations, and they strolled side by side in comfortable silence. William felt at ease with Clara in a way he hadn't felt in a long time, far removed from the structured conversations he had with Eleanor about floral arrangements and guest lists. "Isn't it beautiful out here?" Clara said, stopping to gaze at the sprawling fields illuminated by moonlight. "This is where I feel most alive." "It is beautiful," he admitted, glancing sideways at her as she looked up at the stars. "I can see why you love this life." "But you have so much more," she replied thoughtfully. "You could have anything you want, yet you seem conflicted." Her words struck deep within him. They echoed his internal struggle about his betrothal to Eleanor. Her elegance was alluring, yet their conversations felt superficial compared to the authenticity he experienced with Clara. In that moment under the vast sky, William began to recognize how different his future could be if he pursued something truly meaningful. Clara's laughter from earlier that evening replayed in his mind as he recalled how effortlessly she captured everyone's attention without pretense. He hadn't realized how unhappy he felt until now. It was as if a veil had been lifted. Do you really want to be tied down to someone who sees life as a series of rules? Clara continued, turning to face him with sincere eyes. Or would you rather chase sunsets on horseback? He hesitated, torn between the life he was supposed to live and the one that beckoned him into uncharted territory with Clara. The weight of his betrothal grew heavier in his heart as his connection with Clara blossomed alongside his doubts about marrying Eleanor. Each moment spent with her further complicated the path ahead, one filled with exhilarating possibilities that both frightened and thrilled him. The next day, William found himself restless, unable to concentrate on the tasks awaiting him at Hawthorne Acres. His thoughts swirled relentlessly around Clara and the discussions they had shared under the stars. Determined to understand the depth of his feelings, he decided to seek her out, yearning for the clarity she seemed to bring. As he rode through the ranch, he spotted Clara working diligently in the fields, her hand steady as she mended a fence. She looked up, her face lighting up with a cheerful smile when she saw him approaching. "Hey there, Baron. What brings you out here?" she called out teasingly. "I wanted to talk," William replied, dismounting and walking toward her. "About what we discussed last night." Clara leaned against the fence, an eyebrow raised in curiosity. "What about it?" "Your views on life. You said I could have anything I want. But what if what I want is not what I need?" He paused, searching for the right words. "I've always been driven by success and wealth. It's how I was raised. But you make me question all of that. Do you really think money defines who you are?" Clara asked, crossing her arms and studying him intently. "I've seen plenty of wealthy folks who aren't happy, and I've met hard-working ranchers who find joy in every sunrise and sunset." William frowned, considering her point. "But my betrothal, Eleanor, represents everything expected of me. A life filled with social status and elegance." "But at what cost?" Clara challenged, stepping closer. "Life isn't about fitting into someone else's mold, it's about finding your own path." Her voice softened slightly. "What do you feel when you're out here? When you're not putting on a show?" His heart raced as her questions cut straight through his carefully constructed facade. With each word, Clara was peeling back layers he hadn't even known existed, forcing him to confront his own truths. "I feel free," he admitted, the realization settling over him like a comforting blanket. "Then why keep chasing something that doesn't fill your soul?" she urged gently. William took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her challenge resonate within him. Clara was inviting him to envision a world defined not by wealth or societal expectations but by genuine happiness and love, a world where he could embrace who he truly was, unbound by convention. As they stood there in the warm Texas sun, William felt as if he were standing at a crossroads, staring into a future that shimmered with possibilities he had never dared to imagine until now. Just when William thought he was beginning to understand himself and his desires, a sudden crisis struck Hawthorne Acres. The local news spread quickly on a hot and dry afternoon. The region was facing an unexpected drought that threatened the ranch's water supply. The creeks that usually swelled with life had begun to dry up, leaving the cattle vulnerable and anxious. As William gathered his staff to assess the situation, Clara volunteered to help. Despite her somewhat limited experience with resource management, her confidence and determination shone through. "Let me help you figure this out. We can't let these animals suffer," she insisted, her eyes glimmering with purpose. William watched as she rallied the other ranch hands, demonstrating a natural leadership that both impressed and inspired him. They brainstormed ways to secure alternative water sources, brainstorming tapping deeper wells and creating makeshift troughs for the cattle. In the days that followed, the two of them worked side by side under the scorching sun. Clara's upbeat attitude lightened the mood as they dug trenches and transported heavy buckets of water together. Each shared laugh and moment of hard work brought them closer, deepening their bond even further. One late afternoon, while filling a trough, Clara paused to look at William with concern. "You know," she said gently, "it isn't just about saving the cattle, this is about preserving your way of life too." Are you really ready to let it all go for something that doesn't make you happy? Her words struck him like lightning. He realized that this drought wasn't merely a challenge for the ranch, it was also a test of his newfound feelings toward Clara and what mattered most in life. The cattle symbolized more than just livestock, they represented his connection to the land and the freedom he craved. As they worked diligently day in and day out, doubts about his betrothal began to fade into the background of his mind. The more time William spent with Clara in this crisis, the clearer it became that their shared passion for life and its challenges was building something far deeper than he had ever anticipated, a relationship rooted in authenticity and mutual respect. Together, they were not just fighting for the ranch, they were forging a path toward a future where both of their dreams could flourish side by side. As the days passed, William and Clara worked tirelessly under the hot Texas sun, their camaraderie growing deeper with each shared task. They became an efficient team, moving seamlessly from one solution to the next. Digging ditches, repairing troughs, and transporting water became an everyday rhythm that drew them closer together. One afternoon, as they took a break to rest on a fallen log, Clara lifted her gaze to the horizon. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "when I look out at this land, I see more than just fields and cattle. I see a chance for real connection." William turned to her, taken aback by her honesty. "What do you mean by that?" he asked, genuinely curious. "I mean that life here is about so much more than just survival or status," she continued, her eyes sparkling. "It's about community, love, and dreams intertwined with the earth. You get what I'm saying, don't you?" He marveled at how Clara could articulate feelings he had barely begun to unravel. "I never really thought of it that way," he admitted, feeling a warmth spreading through him. Their differences in background felt less like barriers and more like bridges leading to greater understanding. As they shared stories about their lives during breaks, her childhood running wild in the hills and his upbringing among balls and banquets, William found himself captivated by Clara's unfiltered perspective on life. They joked and laughed easily, often stealing glances that lingered just a moment too long. Those glances were filled with something new, an unspoken attraction that neither dared to voice aloud. One evening after an especially grueling day of labor, as they sat watching the sunset paint the sky in rich oranges and pinks, Clara nudged William playfully. "Think we'll get through this drought?" "Of course," he replied confidently, but then added with sincerity, "as long as we're together." Their laughter echoed off the hills surrounding them, but within it lay a softening reality of what they meant to each other. At that moment, William realized that his heart was tugging him in a direction he had never expected, toward Clara and a life shaped by real connection rather than wealth or expectations. As they turned their gaze back to the sky, side by side under a blanket of stars beginning to appear, William knew he was falling for her, not just for her determination or her kindness but for who she was at heart. He felt liberated in her presence and hoped for more moments like this one as they continued their fight to save the ranch together. The day of the engagement party arrived, and excitement buzzed in the air at Hawthorne Acres. Colorful banners fluttered in the gentle breeze, and tables were adorned with elegant centerpieces of wildflowers, each detail meticulously arranged to impress their guests. However, as William donned his best suit, he felt a heavy weight in his chest. The anticipation of celebrating his betrothal to Eleanor clashed sharply with the emotion swirling within him. As guests began to arrive, laughter and music filled the air, but William's thoughts were elsewhere. He scanned the crowd for Clara, who had promised to attend. When she finally arrived, dressed simply yet beautifully in a flowing dress that echoed the colors of the wildflowers around her, his heart skipped a beat. Clara moved through the gathering with an effortless grace, her presence illuminating the room like sunlight breaking through clouds. Throughout the evening, William found himself drawn to Clara again and again, stealing moments to converse away from prying eyes. Their shared laughter felt like a secret language, one that contrasted sharply with his polite exchanges with Eleanor and other high society guests. Despite their differences, Clara understood him in ways he hadn't known he needed. As the night progressed, Eleanor seized every opportunity to showcase her charm, mingling gracefully among their guests while ensuring William remained by her side. Yet each time she pulled him into conversations about wedding plans or social engagements, William felt increasingly restless. When it was time for speeches, tension hung thick in the air. As Eleanor spoke about their bright future together, William's heart raced with uncertainty. He glanced at Clara across the room. She offered him a knowing smile that seemed to say everything words could not express. Finally, when William was called upon to say a few words, he stood at the podium but felt an overwhelming rush of conflicting emotions. He looked out at familiar faces but locked eyes with Clara, the one person who had awakened a yearning within him for something raw and real. "Tonight is about love," he began hesitantly. "But perhaps not just the kind we typically think of." A flicker of surprise crossed Eleanor's face as murmurs spread throughout the crowd. The moment stretched thin as William wrestled with his feelings for both women. Clara's steady gaze encouraged him to continue. He could feel his heart urging him toward honesty. In that charged moment before family and friends, he knew he was on the brink of revealing what truly mattered, a path that could lead him away from societal expectations and toward authentic love. As William stood at the podium, the air thick with anticipation, he felt the weight of expectation pressing down on him. The murmurs of surprise filled the room as he hinted at his desire for a different kind of love, one he had never fully acknowledged until now. Clara's eyes locked onto his, a fierce and encouraging light that urged him to continue speaking from his heart. In that pivotal moment, he faced a choice that would define not only his future but the futures of both women standing by him, societal expectations embodied by Eleanor or the true connection he felt with Clara. As he looked out at the sea of faces, William saw not just family and friends but the weight of tradition pressing heavily upon his shoulders. He knew that choosing Clara would mean stepping away from the life he had been groomed to lead. Eleanor was beautiful, poised, and everything he had been taught to desire in a wife. She represented the respectability and prestige expected of him as a cattle baron. Their union promised wealth and social standing, a future wrapped in the shining fabric of high society. And yet, what did it cost him? The laughter and joy shared with Clara during their countless hours working on the ranch flooded his mind, making the choice increasingly clear. "What do I want?" William asked himself silently, feeling a ripple of resolve building within him. The moments they spent side by side had shown him more than he ever understood about himself, a raw and genuine life filled with authenticity, laughter, and love. As Eleanor glanced at him expectantly, William's heart thudded loudly in his chest. The decision was right there before him, like a fork in the road. He could feel Clara's steady gaze, her unwavering belief in the possibility of happiness outside the bounds of tradition. At that moment, he understood that true love was not about what others expected but about following his own heart. Taking a deep breath, William steadied himself and began to speak again. "Tonight is not just about my engagement, it's a moment to reflect upon love in all its forms," he said firmly, his voice shaking slightly but growing stronger with each word. "I have come to realize that love must be genuine, it cannot exist within the confines of expectation." The room fell silent as every eye turned to him, waiting for what would come next. In this crucial decision echoing through each heartbeat, William felt freedom swell within him, a chance for real happiness as he weighed his future between two very different paths. As the murmurs of anticipation settled into a hush, William took a deep breath before speaking. "I stand here not just as a cattle baron, but as a man searching for true happiness." The weight of his words hung in the air as he locked eyes with Clara, her expression a blend of encouragement and hope. He continued, "Tonight is not just about my engagement to Eleanor, it's about love in its truest form, one that transcends social class and expectations." Eleanor's brow furrowed in disbelief as confusion rippled through the audience, but William pressed on undeterred. Love should not be bound by tradition or defined by wealth. It must be genuine, raw, and free. A wave of emotion surged within him as he recalled the moments spent laughing with Clara in the fields and the comfort of her presence during their hardest days. "Clara," he exclaimed, his voice gaining strength, "you have shown me what it means to truly live, beyond the confines of expectation." With that declaration resounding in the air, whispers began to fill the space around them. Guests exchanged glances as they tried to digest William's unexpected direction. The moment felt charged with possibility, a crucial change that could alter everything. "You deserve more than just your duty to society," Clara spoke softly but firmly, feeling liberated by his courage. Every eye was now on her as she voiced what she felt, a longing for something genuine. William glanced around at the familiar faces, family, friends, all holding their breath. The risk he was willing to take was not just for himself but for everyone who believed in pursuing authentic love over fleeting social prestige. In that critical moment, he set his sights on defining his path. With Eleanor looking on in surprise and concern, William turned to Clara once more. "I choose love, real love," he declared firmly. "And that love is with you." Cheers erupted from some guests while others gasped in disbelief, but within that chaos lay harmony, an affirmation that love prevailed over societal expectations. In this defining moment, both William and Clara had grown beyond their earlier selves. They had embraced their vulnerability and strength alike. As they stepped down together from that podium under cheers of support, they had claimed not only each other but also a future built on authenticity rather than obligation, a testament to love's triumph over class boundaries and customary norms. Together, they walked into the unknown hand in hand, facing their new life full of hope and promise as partners united by love's transformative power.